I would have come out sooner, but I had to call my opponent and concede, and it took a while to find Ed Galrein in Tel Aviv.
That was the very beginning of Congressman Thomas Massie's concession speech last night. Now that he unfortunately has lost his primary race against an AIPAC-funded challenger who just recently called for the draft to be re-implemented so Americans can continue to be forced to fight Israel's wars. But what's really fascinating today, you wake up in the morning, everyone was kind of on the same page up until this morning when it came to the motivating factors behind this race, or more importantly, the motivating factors behind the challenge, the opposition to Congressman Thomas Massie. Up until this morning, everyone seemed to realize, everyone seemed to acknowledge that Israel wants him gone. The Israel lobby wants him gone. They're spending tens of millions of dollars to defeat him. They're backing Ed Galrein's campaign to the extent that this one little teeny primary race for a freaking House seat in Kentucky's 4th district became the most expensive primary race in US history. Where'd that money come from? Well, we've been talking about it for weeks and weeks. We know that he was, the opponent to Massie was an Israel-backed individual. We knew that Massie's unwillingness to fund Israel's wars drew ire from the Israel firsters within our country. But all of a sudden today, they want to gaslight us. They want to make it seem as though, no, it was just Trump and Trump alone. It was Trump and Trump alone who was able to oust Thomas Massie. I'm personally not buying it. So as of this morning, with 99% of votes counted in this GOP primary for Kentucky's 4th district, Ed Galrein won with 54.9% of the vote. Massie unfortunately came in at 45.1%. Now, Trump had attempted to primary Massie in previous midterm election years. He did. It's just the truth. But he failed. So what happened this time around? What changed? According to Jake Tapper, nothing at all. No, Israel had nothing to do with this. I mean, it's hilarious because before the race was called, Jake was going on and on about what the media is going to do if Massie loses, how they're going to essentially switch the narrative, flip the narrative, and make it seem as though, no, precious innocent Israel had nothing to do with this. The Israel firsters had nothing to do with this. And that's exactly what Jake Tapper did. It's hilarious. So let's take a look at what he posted on X. Supporters of Israel have long opposed Massie, but he lost tonight because President Trump wanted him defeated, and Trump is incredibly popular in his district and in the GOP. Was it just Trump and the fact that Trump had directed his ire toward Massie that led to Massie's loss? It had, nothing to do with the tens of millions of dollars by the Israel lobby seeking to essentially oust this guy? Okay, so let's get to the actual numbers here. As Politico reported, a pair of pro-Israel super PACs linked to the American Israel Public Affairs Committee and the Republican Jewish Coalition spent more than $9 million targeting Massie, who has routinely rejected efforts to financially aid and symbolically support Israel. And by the way, one other thing that he did that really did draw the attention, and not positive attention, let's be clear about that, of the Israel firsters, of the Zionists in this country, was the fact that in one of his sit-down interviews with Tucker Carlson, it was either last year, maybe at the end of the year before, he disclosed what the reality is in Congress, that every single Republican congressperson that he is familiar with has an Israeli handler. So he was saying out loud how our government actually operates. And I don't think the Zionists like that. I don't think they like that at all. Anyway, another PAC, MAGA KY PAC, stood up by Trump's top political operatives, who also happen to be operatives for Israel, by the way, spent nearly $7 million berating Massie over his votes. So I'm sure that had nothing to do with why and how Massie lost his re-election bid, right? Just yesterday, we discussed how Tony Fabricio, the co-founder of MAGA KY, very unfortunate name, works as an Israeli campaign advisor. That's right, he is an operative for Israeli campaigns. In fact, he helped Benjamin Netanyahu get reelected, much like Trump's current chief of staff, Susie Wiles, did. But I'm sure Israel has nothing to do with any of this, right? I'm sure Israel isn't occupying our federal government, right? I'm sure it's all in my imagination. I'm making it all up. Okay, so not only do you have Israel-aligned groups funding Ed Galrein's opposition campaign to Thomas Massie, Massie's primary challenger also was backed by the very super PAC that was co-founded by two individuals who work for Israel, helped Israeli politicians in their elections, and happen to be very much involved, intertwined in the Trump administration. So the most influential super PAC behind the Zionist attack on Thomas Massie is the MAGA KY super PAC, started by former Trump campaign manager Chris LaCivita and pollster Tony Fabrizio, which Politico noted is bankrolled by how much? $1 million from hedge fund manager Paul Singer and $750,000 from a super PAC linked to casino magnate Miriam Adelson. Another group, the Christians United for Israel Action Fund, what a disgrace, has spent 6 figures on billboards targeting Massie. But I'm sure that had nothing to do with Massie's loss. Nothing. Israel and the Israel Firsters had nothing to do with, they have no influence on our government whatsoever. In fact, it is the most powerless group, not just in this country, but in the world. I mean, Zionists would never get away with murder, right? Except they do literally every single day. So when Netanyahu was running for re-election in 2020, I want to go back to this. He actually solicited help from Trump at the time.
Do you know your brain rot index? No, of course you don't. I didn't either because I didn't know what it was, but turns out you might want to, especially after hearing this. Did you know that the average American checks their phone over 200 times a day? That's about 5 hours of screen time a day on just your phone. Unfortunately, that means your brain is rotting. A little bit, but have no fear. I switched over to Noble Mobile, downloaded their Noble Mobile Life app, and was able to track my own brain rot index. It's 0. No, I'm just kidding. My number was not great, but now that I'm on Noble Mobile, getting way better. It tracks how much you use your phone, how often you pick it up, and even shows you how to save money on your phone bill by using it less. New members can even earn up to $100 cash back for keeping their brain rot index under 100, which means you are very unrotten. Okay, so you unlock all that when you join. So download the Noble Mobile Life app today, track your own brain rot index, and learn how you can save money and spend more time doing things that actually bring you joy instead of doom scrolling on social media. Check it out by heading to tyt.com/switch or by downloading the Noble Mobile app. By the way, don't tell Andrew, but if you're on Wi-Fi, you also don't use your data, so you're gonna get money back anyway. tyt.com/switch.
He's like, listen, I'm really struggling here. I'm a corrupt piece of crap. I'm facing serious corruption charges. I'm cratering in the polls. I need you to send some people over. Send your people to me so they can help me win re-election. And he delivered. He absolutely delivered. He sent Susie Wiles. He sent, Chris LaCivita, Tony Fabrizio, the co-founder, of course, of the MAGA KY super PAC that helped to defeat Massie. But Israel has nothing to do with any of this, right? Nothing at all. Corey Lewandowski was part of that team in attempting to help Netanyahu get reelected. And to be sure, he did get reelected. This is in 2020. Unfortunately, that war criminal is sucking up our resources and goading us into wars that are absolutely devastating for the global economy and for our troops. And so Trump essentially made his bed by helping that disgusting man get reelected. So here we are today. But again, Israel has nothing to do with our government, totally separate, we're totally sovereign, and they don't get involved in meddling in our elections. Do you guys see how insulting it is when these people rub it in our faces that they have control over our media, that they are outspending incumbent candidates in terms of attack ads in order to oust these candidates because they're not towing the line on Israel. We're supposed to believe that it was just Trump's popularity that got Massie reelected. Now, here's the unfortunate thing, and this is real talk. Young people are less likely to go to the polls. And I think that's stupid, okay? So if you look at the makeup of the Republican Party or the Republican base right now, older Republicans, certainly those 50 or older, have been so heavily brainwashed into thinking that Israel is actually a special ally that they just go ahead and roll with the punches, give Israel what they want, support whatever Israel wants, because that's the right thing to do. Like, they're gone. There's no saving them. They're gone. But the younger Republicans who would like to decouple from Israel, who actually understood what was going on with Massie's race, they don't show up to vote. And honestly, the Twitter posts are great if you're just trying to get the word out about something. They're not great in terms of accumulating political power. It's not great in terms of getting your favorite candidates elected or reelected. You have to vote. And let me be clear about something. I don't think turning your brain off and then a few weeks before an election, you suddenly decide like, oh, I want to be politically active, so I'm simply going to vote and that's all that I need to do. I don't think that works necessarily all of the time, but it is important to do the bare minimum. And the bare minimum is to go and vote for the candidate you prefer. And it's unfortunate that it's harder to get younger people to show up to the polls to cast their ballots. In this case, it could have helped Massie tremendously. So let's get to some more details here because when you go back to Massie's primary race, according to data by Ad Impact, overall ad spending in this race topped $33 million. This is a primary race for a House seat. This isn't a primary race for a Senate seat. This isn't a primary race for a presidential candidate. No. This is for a House seat in Kentucky. And despite all the money pouring in from Zionist groups, despite the fact that the whole reason why Massie became a target in the first place was because he had the audacity to demand the release of the Epstein files, which was incredibly embarrassing for the Israelis since they had very nice, cozy relationship with Epstein. He was making all sorts of deals for them, selling their cyber weapons. I mean, he was selling Israeli cyber weapons in Mongolia. That's how involved Epstein was with the Israeli government. And yes, there's a lot of suspicion that he was engaged in a blackmail operation carried out by the Israelis in order to gather dirt on powerful people in this country, possibly other countries. So you can blackmail politicians and ensure you get what you want because they don't want to be embarrassed if there's a sex tape of them out there, especially one where they might be doing something illegal, right? That's what Israel is. That's what Israel is. Now, Massie clearly didn't have anything nefarious in his background because had he had something nefarious in his background, it would have come out. So instead, the Zionists did what they do the best. They called on their billionaire buddies, heavily funded the opposition to Massie, and they got what they wanted. But not according to Ben Shapiro. No. Israel's never involved in anything. Never. I mean, who even knows anything about Israel, right? They're so quiet. We never hear a peep. Let's watch.
Not a surprise that Massie's friends are all of the most conspiratorial anti-Israel people on planet Earth. That would include Cenk Uygur, who put out a tweet. If Representative Thomas Massie loses tomorrow, the Republicans will become Israel's party. It's about Israel. By the way, it's not about Israel. The reason why Massie is in hot water here has nothing to do with his stance with regard to Israel. It has everything to do with his stance with regard to conspiratorial nonsense about Jeffrey Epstein and the fact that he has voted against a wide variety of President Trump's priorities in Congress. Massie is trying this dumb routine. Massie himself is out there saying that Israel is trying to buy his seat in Congress. Again, my dude. Like this tactic is one of the dumbest tactics. I just have to say, it's a tactic made for stupid people. And the reality is that people who are pro-Israel do not like Thomas Massie because Thomas Massie has engaged in every conspiracy theory it is possible to engage in and has made common cause with the most anti-Israel people. That's true. But the reason that Thomas Massie is actually in trouble is because the Trump administration has decided to oppose him on the basis of completely other issues.
Again, that was Ben Shapiro, since he's pretending like he doesn't know how to pronounce Cenk Uygur's name, even though he's known him for the better part of a decade, maybe even longer than that. So Cenk Uygur, what was that? Shapiro, totally, a total joke, by the way. Okay, hey Ben, since you want to pretend like Israel had nothing to do with this, okay, fine. I'll do your drug. I'll play stupid for you. Why did Trump turn his back on Thomas Massie? What directed Trump's ire toward Thomas Massie? Did it come out of nowhere? Now, look, I know that the pro-Israel types like Ben Shapiro have been spinning this stupid lie about how like, oh, it's really because Thomas Massie refused to fund DHS. Totally insulting our intelligence. Thomas Massie has been consistent in his political views. And by the way, many of those political views I don't agree with. But you know what I liked about him? That he was actually a principled politician who was consistent, who had values that he lived by, something that's very rare in Washington. Let's be very clear about that. But Trump did turn on Thomas Massie, not because he voted against DHS funding. By the way, that was a massive bill that included funding to CISA. CISA, what is that? Well, that's a policy that unfortunately is written in such a vague way that it allows for the government to engage in censorship of the American people. There was funding allocated for that in the same bill that included funding for DHS. Well, Thomas Massie has a problem with CISA. He has consistently said he does not want to fund CISA. In fact, Thomas Massie might be the one and only genuine fiscal hawk in Congress right now, which is why he consistently votes against frivolous spending by our federal government. You know, considering the fact that we're $40 trillion in debt, turns out spending $8 trillion fighting Israel's wars in the Middle East was a really bad idea, wasn't it, Ben? So like this laughable notion that Israel had nothing to do with it. Okay, let's take a look at why Trump turned his back on him then. I mean, it's just an indirect way of fessing up to the truth that it's because of Israel. So Trump turned on him due to his role in getting the Epstein files released, which again implicated Israel for its ties to that pervert. And I suspect that Jake Tapper read much of Dropsite's reporting on that, which is why he's been so salty toward Dropsite, but he likes to play stupid. Okay, great. Trump turned on Massie following his refusal to bow to Israel and fund their atrocities and slaughter campaigns in the Middle East, particularly in Gaza. And Massie was a vocal opponent to war in Iran, which is something that Israel wanted. And by extension, Trump wanted, because Trump is Israel's bitch. Is anyone gonna deny that? So even if you say, no, it was because of Trump. Okay, but then why did Trump turn on Massie? And don't give me some BS about he didn't support DHS funding, because that's a lie. That's just a lie. And why is it that Trump failed in primarying Massie in previous elections when he attempted to do so? Weird, right? Seems like something was different this time around. Okay, so in other words, if you're to believe that Massie lost because of Trump and not Israel, the whole reason Trump turned on Massie and supported a primary challenger to Massie is because Massie upset the Israelis. And Trump's only purpose, I think it's pretty clear to the American people at this point, is to carry out the best wishes of the Israelis, not the American people. Anyone who tells you otherwise is lying to you. They just spent months bragging about the influence they have and the money that they're spending on defeating Massie. And then the day after the election, they have the audacity to pretend like Israel doesn't have control over our elections, our federal government, our foreign policy. Please. Here's the headline from Haaretz, which I thought was pretty fascinating. The most consequential Republican primary for Israel is happening in Kentucky. Weird, isn't that weird? Haaretz is an Israeli paper. Why is this primary race for a single House seat out of Kentucky so important to the Israelis? There's more. AIPAC rubs it in our face. They rub their influence, their meddling in our elections in our faces. So they say Ed Galrein's victory in Kentucky and Clay Fuller's win in Georgia ensures two outspoken pro-Israel voices are positioned to fill seats previously held by outspoken detractors, Thomas Massie and Marjorie Taylor Greene. Our community was proud to help pro-Israel candidates win these races, F Israel and F AIPAC. This country, this foreign country is raping us. And I literally can't believe that there are still a sizable, there's still a sizable portion of older Americans who are like, yeah. I want to be Israel's pay pig. Yeah, I want to send my sons and daughters or my grandchildren to fight Israel's wars and potentially die on behalf of that foreign country who couldn't care less about us. Okay. Now, I debated that Shabo's Kestenbaum guy on Al Arabiya today. I think it's going to come out tomorrow. And he tried to gaslight us about the reality of what led to Massie losing this race. And I really wanted to show you who Shabos is. Because while on one hand, when he's engaged in a debate with someone like me, he's speaking to a specific type of audience, right? So he wants to downplay Israel's influence. But when he's speaking to a room full of Jewish students, he says something entirely different. Take a look.
What a pathetic philosophy of life. Because if you think AIPAC controls government, this is a free country. Build your own lobbying group and lobby for your causes. You think Jews control Hollywood? Okay, create your own content. You think that Israel is a foreign policy blunder? Okay, well then go to DC and advocate for your beliefs. It's just such a victimhood mentality that is so dumb and really makes you a loser. And I think that's the argument that we should probably go for. I think it's probably more effective to just say, all right, Nick Fuentes, you're right, we control the media. So what are you gonna do about it? You're just gonna bitch on Twitter? Like, okay. Meanwhile, we're gonna control more of the media.
When I issued a direct quote from that video to Kestenbaum during the debate today, he said he wasn't being serious. He was obviously joking. Did that sound like joking to you? Sounds like when Shabos is in a room full of Jewish students, he's very proud of the fact that the Zionists control our media. And they do, by the way, control our media. I mean, I know it would be so easy for the people who care about freedom and democracy to find their own group of billionaires to influence our media or to throw races in a direction that we prefer. But it turns out those billionaires don't exist. There's a lot of Zionist billionaires though. And they like to buy up our media, as the Ellisons would prove. One more video for you. Let's go to that slob Podhoretz. This is John Podhoretz celebrating the role that, in his words, Jewish money played in defeating Massie.
I think it is a good thing if Massie and the people like him and others believe that if you cross the line into anti-Semitism, Jews are going to use the power that we have openly to go for you. Because what other recourse is there? Are we just going to sit here and take it, beg for scraps, hope that nice people are nice to us? The Democratic Party is going explicitly anti-Semitic. We can see it happening. There is an enormous amount of Jewish money in politics, by which I mean Jewish donors, wildly disproportionate, not only charitably, but politically.
At no point did Podhoretz provide any evidence of Thomas Massie ever saying or doing anything anti-Semitic. But he doesn't need to. This is what Zionists are. This is what Zionists do. They just label anyone they don't like as anti-Semites, and they don't think they have to prove a damn thing. The entirety of the Democratic Party is apparently anti-Semitic, according to Podhoretz. And I love how lazy they are. I love the fact that their brains have atrophied when it comes to debating substantive criticism toward Israel and the undue influence they have, the outsized influence they have over our government. So atrophied that they literally cannot engage the substance. They just, she's anti-Semite, anti-Semite, anti-Semite. These are the brightest minds, right? Brightest minds among Zionists. Okay, explain to me how the entirety of the Democratic Party is anti-Semitic, and give me some examples, please, of Thomas Massie saying or doing anything that's anti-Semitic. He doesn't have to. He doesn't have to. But the reason why I wanted to show you that clip is because there you have John Podhoretz saying, yeah. The Zionists do have outsized influence, and we should brag about it. In fact, we should warn that we're gonna do this more and more. Okay, noted. I at least appreciate his candor there. Way better than the gaslighters like Jake Tapper, Ben Shapiro, and Shabos Kestenbaum.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.